Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the Community Media Podcast here at Cape Ann Television. I'm your host, Erich Archer, Executive Director here at Cape Ann TV. And our guest today is Joann Gillette, the VP and General Manager of North Shore 104.9. Welcome, Joann. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Erich. Thank you for having me.
So how long have you been with the radio station?
I've been there about 12 years.
And what was your trajectory? How did you wind up there?
I started when my youngest child was going to middle school, and I thought, I really need to get to work. I need a job. And I started at the radio station in sales. Day one, I knew I loved it. I was familiar with the station before. I liked the music. I really liked the local flavor of the station, and I just kind of fell into it. I always felt in my prior career, I was a hotel controller, that the salespeople had all the fun. So when it was time to go back to work, I thought, I really want to do something in sales. It seems to be a much happier place. So I started at the radio station in sales, loved it, and just kind of slowly worked my way up. And I think the fact that I felt right at home day one kind of made me stay.
Interesting. And you and I were talking before. You came via L.A. and New York. Is that right?
I grew up in upstate New York. I was transferred to L.A. from Boston back decades ago. I was working for Sheraton Hotels, and they sent me to L.A., and it was when we had our third child and big families back here that I thought, we can't be out. We can't be on the West Coast. Too many trips, too many kids. It just made sense to come back, so we did.
Similar for me, coming back from L.A., did some time in New York and L.A., and then when it came time to have kids, it was time to come home and be around the family, so I can certainly relate.
Yeah, my husband's one of 9.
Oh!
Yeah.
My wife is one of 4. I thought that was a lot.
No, we beat you.
More than double. So have you been a part of 12 years? I'm trying to think. I know the station has rebranded a few times and changed genres a few times. Have you been a part of that?
I was not there when, I always want to say Fuzzy Zeller, but Simon Geller, that's how I remember his name. I was not there when Simon Geller owned the radio station. North Shore resident Todd Tanger purchased the station in December '03, changed the format January 14th to a mix of 60s, 70s, 80s to go after the largest population base in Essex County, which was the baby boomers. And we've pretty much stayed with that format ever since. I started in July '04, which was when we started with the Red Sox. We picked them up at the All-Star break in '04. So I was not brand new in the new format, but early enough in that it was, it was still fun. It was still new.
So the boomers are the target demo?
Yes.
Interesting.
Still are.
So do you have a sense of your audience? Do you know how many listeners do you have? Do you get that kind of
There's
data?
a company, Nielsen rating service,
Sure.
it used to be called Arbitron, that gave us numbers. And at one point we felt that perhaps we should subscribe to it, but it's really not cost efficient. It's not a service that helped us too much. I think if we reached the Boston metro area, it would have made a difference. We are not in line for the national ads. We're really local. And because we're local, for an advertiser, it makes sense if there's a business on the North Shore or the Merrimack Valley or Southern New Hampshire that, we're a perfect fit. And we don't necessarily need to have numbers to back that up. Mm-hmm. We're more local. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to guess 100,000 plus listeners weekly, but it's just a guess. There's no statistic to back that up. We do reach a coverage area of about 2.4 million persons. When I first started, we had a broadcast tower in Cape Ann Industrial Park. So if you did a large circle from that tower, we were reaching about 800,000 people and 11 miles of the Atlantic Ocean. We moved the tower back in 2012, and we went 11 miles west. We now have a tower in Topsfield, and it brought that 800,000 people that we could reach to about 2.4 million. So it's been a great growth for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're sort of selling potential ears. You can-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Similar situation for us. We don't get any ratings, and we try to get sponsors and underwriters as well.
Yep.
We know how many homes that we're in because we're tied directly to Comcast and their cable subscription.
Yep.
So we know we're in 17,000 homes, but we don't know who's tuning in when, which is a hurdle that we deal with when it comes to getting sponsorships.
Right.
It can be challenging. I actually reached out to Nielsen at one point to see if there was anything we could get, but of course,
The cost is just, it doesn't make sense.
yeah. Let's talk about the state of radio today a little bit. Are you getting any pushback from advertisers saying anything about podcasting and moving away from traditional radio? Are they sticking with you? Like, where are we at today?
It's funny that every year it seems as though there's another competitor out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most recent competitor that I thought could take away a piece of what we had was Pandora. And they are now running about 5.3 minutes of commercials an hour. So it's no longer a commercial-free alternative. I do think that we're like a local newspaper. We're like buying the Lynn Item, the Salem News, the Gloucester Times, the Newburyport Daily News, the Eagle Tribune, all together. So we don't really need to have ratings. We don't need the numbers. We know we're local.
Mm-hmm.
We know that for a business that wants to reach adults, business owners, homeowners, family, heads of families, that's our demographic. And geographically, if the business is located north of Boston, in the Merrimack Valley or southern New Hampshire, we're a good geographic fit as well. And economically, our rates are local. We're a tiny piece of what you would find at a Boston station.
Sure. So you mentioned Pandora, and there's obviously this trend towards streaming, and that's true with audio and certainly for video, something that we're dealing with on the cord-cutting side. You have Pandora, you have other streaming audio, you have stations like us making podcasts because we see that trend growing. Do you look at a streaming option for the station?
We do stream.
You
We
do.
stream live everything except for the Red Sox games. We do not have the rights to stream the games. So we play music, which is a nice alternative for someone who wants to hear the 60s, 70s, 80s, and there's a game on. You can stream the station and hear music during the games. So pretty much 24 hours a day, you can play the station through on your computer, on your mobile device, or on your radio.
Are there on-demand offerings as well? Can you pull up your a recent show or anything like that?
No. We do shows on Saturday and Sunday mornings between 6 and 10 in the morning. We pretty much have a pretty full lineup on both Saturday and Sunday mornings. And those shows, after they run, we podcast those on our homepage so that anyone who didn't hear it or wants to play it again can listen to our podcast. So you can't go back and hear a song from 5 songs ago, but you can listen to Food Talk with Billy Costa from Sunday if you were out of town and you want to play it on Monday. It will be on our podcast.
Interesting. So how are you feeling about the state of local radio? Are you feeling like your position is pretty solid? Or?
I think it's incredibly solid, and I think it has stayed the same for a decade. It hasn't, listening numbers haven't jumped tremendously, nor have they dropped. They've stayed very steady, which I'm very happy with.
Well, it really seems like there's this reemergence of audio. I think it's got a lot to do with the smart home speakers that are coming out, the Home Pods and the Alexa and those sorts of things, and streaming. I just find that I'm multitasking more. I've got some audio streaming more than I used to. Do you
Oh, I
see that?
I go in my kitchen and I say, Alexa, play North Shore 104.9.
Well, there you go.
So I now have a radio in my kitchen when I didn't used to.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
gotta make you
it's
feel good.
It's wonderful. And I can interrupt Alexa and ask what the weather is and then go back to 104.9 and play the station.
So, what is the biggest challenge to local radio? Is there one right now? Anything you see that?
It's a silly challenge that just landed on my desk today, and that is we are gearing up to broadcast high school football games. We're
Really?
starting September 9th, and we're going through the Super Bowl, which last year was December 3rd, so it should be early in December. That's at Gillette Stadium. We pick up the larger rivalries, the bigger towns. We do Beverly Salem on Thanksgiving Day one year, Gloucester Danvers on Thanksgiving Day the next year. So we kind of flip-flop back and forth. And the challenge that I have is that we don't know what the Red Sox postseason games will be. So it's hard to plan high school football around that. And really, that's not a challenge. I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Sure. So, do you see yourself moving into other kinds of content? I was looking at your website and I see that you have some other community resources like a dining guide and arts and entertainment and happenings and those sorts of things. Do you see yourself moving into any other areas? And do you think about video at all? Anything like that?
I don't think video would support radio like we would want or like we would need. But I have no idea what's around the corner and what the new thing next year will be. I know that our webpage we use to support the happenings that we do, kind of our way to give back to the North Shore. Under happenings, we promote local events for nonprofits and charities, and we do that for free. And we have someone who just does that all day long. So we're able to give someone a place, a reference to go back and find what's happening this weekend, philanthropically on the North Shore. And that's kind of handy to have online. But other than that, I think our digital, what we use digital for at the moment and social media for is to really reinforce our live broadcasts, things we're doing out in the field. We do a toy drive with Senator Bruce Tarr every December, and we're able to give that an extra push through Facebook, through Twitter, and we can set up a web page for details so that listeners will have a place to go look for more information.
We've covered your toy drive the past
Yes,
few years.
that's right.
Yeah, we'll have to
Yeah.
give you that content for social. I was going to ask you about social and how you view it, but you basically answered that as a sort of a support system for your core content.
Right.
Do you have a person dedicated to social? How do you manage that?
We have a promotions manager who handles all of the social for us.
Do you create any content specifically for it? Do you look at it as a distribution channel in that way, or just sort of as a support system?
Really as a support system.
Interesting.
We will do like a Facebook post of places to watch fireworks. So not necessarily supporting anything other than what's fun and happening this week. We do an arts and entertainment page and an entertainment report every week. And we've got a great resource online for all the different shows by date, by location, similar to a lot of the restaurants that we have on. So really still support and educational.
Interesting. I think we're starting to think about it a little bit more as its own channel. We had been similar to what you're doing, thinking about it as support for a long time, and
Yeah.
now we're starting to think about sort of unique content specifically for it and developing strategies around it, carving up some of our content like this into smaller pieces and distributing it that way. Just something that we're thinking about. I'm just curious if others are doing that too.
I struggle with not wanting to make our digital offerings too salesy, too commercially. I like to have people want to go and look at what we've posted on Facebook, not to find an ad for shoes, but to find something that someone in the area would get information out of. So yeah, but again, a year from now, I could be eating my words. Things change so fast.
So talk a little bit about that. What's the future look like? How do you plan for it? How far out do you look?
I think we keep our ears open to everything that's going on. We kind of figure out as each new opportunity comes in front of us, whether it's something we need, whether it's added benefit to our clients, to our advertisers, or whether it's a distraction. And I don't think you can plan too far out. There's so many changes happening so fast. I think you just have to be able to be flexible.
Are you sticking with the boomers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They tend to be the demo that makes the decisions, that are the business owners, that are the family owners, the demo that perhaps has more disposable income than the others. And kind of the adult sandwich generation, the grown children of the seniors and the parents of the high schoolers. It seems to be a really nice place for us. And it also gives us a little bit of variety from a lot of the metro stations. They tend to try to attract 25, 54-year-olds.
Gotcha. Well, it's been interesting talking with you, Joann. I could talk with you a lot more about the content creation side of things, but why don't we wrap up for now? It's probably a good length of time for our podcast here, and maybe we'll swing back around and check in with you another time.
Perfect.
Well, thanks again for coming. It was great talking with you.
Erich, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Great. See ya.